Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Hello and welcome to the Middlemen of Jurors. I am Juror Cyril Abaku, and with me here I have my co-jurors. I have Juror Jumoke Alawode. Jumoke, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm amazing. I'm very grateful to God. How are you, Cyril?
Very well. Jumoke will be traveling to Abuja to examine hunger in the Federal Capital Territory. I also have with me in the studio the juror from Rabbi, Juror Evans Ufeli. How are you doing this afternoon, sir?
Excellent.
All right. The juror from Rabbi will be sweeping Lagos this afternoon. And of course, myself, I will be stepping on a flight between Kano and Jeddah, and I will be back to tell you what I found there. These three cases are on our radar this afternoon. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the Middlemen of Jurors. I am Juror Cyril Abaku, and here is my case. Between Sunday and Monday this past week, no fewer than 264 Nigerian air passengers got on a plane to Jeddah, but upon arrival, Saudi authorities cancelled all their visas and asked them to return to the country. It took frantic intervention on the part of Nigerian authorities to have about 86 or so of them to actually be allowed to stay in Saudi Arabia. Now, we do understand that before this flight even took place, all passengers were made to go through the advanced passengers pre-screening system, which usually involves counterpart surveillance, which is to say that basically, as Nigerian authorities were undertaking these checks on the passengers to ascertain that they were fit to fly and had the right documentation, Saudi authorities were also monitoring and checking to be sure that these checks were being done appropriately. The question is, why then this great colossal embarrassment on the global stage being meted to Nigerian citizens only after they had arrived? It only speaks to some sort of arm twisting by a bigger nation to or on a smaller country. And true to type, Nigeria has not necessarily asserted itself in the matter. It took us about 2 or 3 days to issue a statement, and when we did, what the federal government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said was that the matter was being investigated. That was what they said, and then they said that about 18 of those passengers were being turned back because of past offences. And the question is, how about the remainder who had no record of past offences? The Saudi authorities came out later to now apparently put a lie to what the Nigerian government has said. They said that all of those passengers didn't have the right documentation. But it begs the question in very, very many ways. As a matter of fact, some experts in Nigeria have alluded to two important factors. One, they've said that there is a very strong possibility that we are only being spited in light of the fact that Air Peace, being Nigeria's major carrier, ever since Air Peace opened up a corridor, a direct route to Saudi Arabia, the patronage has been more. Nigerian travelers have now begun to use Air Peace more than they were using Saudi Airlines, and that this might have gotten on the nerve of the Saudi government. But the question is, Saudi Arabia and Nigeria are two sovereign countries, and none of these countries is bigger than the other. It only speaks to the fact that Nigeria itself has not asserted her place as a strong contender and strong global player. When we keep on borrowing, asking for investments from them, this whole fiasco happened at a time when the Saudi government had purportedly announced that they were going to invest in our refineries as well as support the plan by the federal government to actually float the naira and our exchange policies. The question is, when another country is in a higher position to help you, you've made yourself the butt of jokes. Can Nigeria indeed stamp our feet? Can we assert our right? Can we urgently take measures to stop this kind of embarrassment from falling on our citizens again? Here's my verdict. The Nigerian government has to now check whoever it is that assessed the passengers before they even boarded and certified and said that they were fit to fly and that they had the right documents. If any kind of criminality or wrongdoing is found, they must be arrested, they must be charged, they must be prosecuted. That's one. Then, if the Saudis are not saying the truth, and if it appears that they participated in the advanced passenger pre-screening system and are now turning back to, use the bag to muzzle us, we must assert ourselves and ask for due recompense, failing which it will be clear that this country has really lost its place in the Community of Nations and that anybody can take us for a ride. I so submit.
Bureau Siri, I have a concurrence on the case under reference. I agree with you to the extent that if anyone is behind this or someone has surreptitiously gone under to undermine our country, Nigeria, I agree with you to the extent that that person should be arrested, charged and prosecuted. And the international community must also come out to reprimand, and the Saudi authorities should issue apologies to that effect. That said, I also want to say that under international protocols on aviation, when a country issues you a visa is like an authority, okay, to have access to the country. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the airport, there's what you call immigration check. Point of entry can be denied at the airport.
Yes, prerogative of entry. It's
a different thing entirely.
Yes, it's on the government.
So the fact that you have a visa to a country does not by any means
make it compulsory that they must grant you entry.
They will grant you entry.
Yes.
Entry is you have to pass a test.
Yes.
It's called immigration clearance.
Yes.
Okay, so if during the immigration clearance they found out that some persons had the wrong documentation, that some persons
your passport was forged.
The documentations they have is not in line with the visa issued to them. Because that is the case here. Some of them had documentation that are contrary to the kind of visa they presented. Okay, if for example, you have a B1, B2 visa, for example, if you're in the US, it means that you are going for tourism.
Yes.
Okay. But if you have that, and then you show up at the airport and say that no, I got admission
to university.
You understand? So you look at the visa and then look at your aims and objectives. You see that it's at variance with your mission.
Yes.
So all these issues of documentation could have been the case because I see the Saudi authority raise that issue. Listening to Oyema last night, the owner of the airline, that those issues were primarily why that happened. So that is why my concurrence is to the extent that if anyone is behind this, fine, by your ruling and judgment. But if not, the case of documentation and the fact that by international protocol you have access to the country does not mean you have access to the country.
Okay, so I have 3 quick issues on this matter. First, I must agree, right, with your concurrence that whoever is behind this should be prosecuted. But government is a continuum. It looks like the Nigerian government, since the 2023 election, has become disjointed. There's no continuum. It's the leaders themselves who change. The civil servants are there. They're permanent. In fact, it's very difficult to sack civil servants.
They say the civil servants are the landlords. The politicians are the tenants.
They are the tenants who come every 4 years. You know, how come it seems like there's a disjointment, if there's a word like that, between the Nigerian government of last year and this year? Why am I saying that? Well, we go on these religious pilgrimages every year. Why is it that we suddenly forget, what the processing ought to be? Again, secondly, which
processing is not done by government.
No. So
the individuals submit documents.
So, but
to government authorities.
You were granted a visa right? There are things that the government or even the person issuing you the visa will advise.
You should be talking about the Saudi government now.
No, I'm talking about Nigerian government.
No, but
I was going to go on the second topic to even say that. Why are we even still doing religious pilgrimages when people are hungry? I'm going to come to my topic eventually, talking about hunger, particularly in Abuja. But why is the Nigerian state still embarking on this frivolous journeys? Religion should be personal to each, individual. Why is the government putting their hands in it? The third thing is it will be a petty issue really if the Saudi government are a little disappointed that we're no longer using the Saudi airline and this is APIS, our unofficial national carrier. It will be a very petty issue. That assumption, I'm hoping that is conspiracy theory that is way far from the truth. Last one is that Nigeria's reputation in the International Committee of States is at its lowest ever. Yeah. We had an election that the verdict of INEC that seemed to be a political party of his own, declared is way at discordance from what the people were aspiring towards.
It threw up a legitimacy issue.
Exactly. So our government seems not to be legitimate, and we have become a joke internationally.
They fall out.
Why? Because the president was still in the country discussing how you will help us revive our refineries, and then over 200 of your citizens are turned back. Of course, the Saudi government have the right, to turn back anyone who is coming in illegally.
All right, we will be going on a quick break. When we come back, the Middlemen continues.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Welcome back. It is still the Middlemen of Juros. Now, here is my case. Road sweepers in Lagos and the tragedy they live with. Just this week, 2 street sweepers in Lagos were knocked down by a moving vehicle at the Bagada area of Lagos State. Now, the circumstance that led to this was that the last man allegedly were chasing the motorists that knocked these 2 women down. And he has long turned himself to the police after running away immediately after the accident occurred. Now, the story here is that the sweepers in Lagos have continuously had this issue of being knocked down by motorists, either by accident or by mistake or by negligence. And there is a recurring decima in this issue. And it is important for us to know that the state ought to take proper precaution to ensure that those who sweep the road are properly protected, and insurance policy for them is necessary to cater for eventualities like this. We have made advocacies repeatedly on that issue, that it is wrong to have old women in the expressway in the name of sweeping the express. In Dublin, where I partly live, the roads are swept by vacuum vehicles every evening. Because of the likelihood of vehicle hitting the human person, there are vehicles that have vacuum sweeper and cleaners that run through the road every evening, such that it gets the road better cleaned than having a human person on the road without necessary caution to prevent moving vehicles from knocking down people. I think while the driver was negligent and reckless and will be charged to court for manslaughter according to the Nigerian police, the state government, Lagos state government, is also in dereliction of our duties on safety. Here's my ruling in the case under reference. Now, it is important that the duty of a state is to ensure that the lives of the citizens are protected as prescribed by law. Any state that have no security measures to protect the life of her citizens has failed as a state. My judgment, therefore, this afternoon is that the Lagos State government should be held accountable for the action of the driver and that of the last man, because it is the contributory factor of these two elements that led to the death of these two citizens. And I hereby call on the authorities to ensure that the driver is properly prosecuted and the state reprimanded, and the state must ensure that the families of the deceased are properly taken care of. I shall go to Rabbi again.
Hey, dependent or descendant of Rabbi, I totally agree, right, with your judgment. I was even going to mention that why do we have elderly women sweeping the streets in Lagos? But again, we've weaponized poverty to the extent that we have a population of more poor people as the poverty capital of Nigeria.
Of the world.
Oh, pardon me, of the world.
Yeah.
Than of middle class. Our middle class are now either extremely rich or extremely poor. Again, I'm going to talk about hunger, particularly in Abuja. But because you mentioned that, you know, in Dublin and other civilized countries, you would find that the sweepers on the road are not human. They're vehicles,
Yes.
you know. So nobody's going to knock down the vehicle of any sort. The reason I agree with you is if you're going to localize cleanliness in Lagos to say, oh, we have elderly women on the streets, you must protect them.
Yes.
And over again, we have seen that the recklessness of last mile officials, you know, you know, as you say in law, that it's better for 99 guilty men to go scot-free
Yes.
than for you to imprison
Innocent man.
an innocent man. So if this person is going to cause harm to someone's safety, security, or whatever, it's better to let them go. Take their plate numbers. I mean, with your plate number, we can find you anywhere. Why must I chase you to the extent that you hit someone and kill them? 2 lives lost recklessly, unnecessarily. We must hold the last mile official accountable.
That's the state.
Yes,
That's the state.
the driver. And also, whoever is the last man, DG, or commissioner of, we must hold all of them accountable.
And the
so
commissioner
that
for transport.
God bless you. So that such a case never repeats itself. Again, I will say that what's the value of the human life in Nigeria? We count dead people like statistics here. You just say, 20 people died, 2 people died. That's 1 life too many. You know, but I also think that we should deal with poverty. Our elderly women should be enjoying their old age, not sweeping the streets.
Now, my own intervention will be that I want to draw attention to something. I think the Commissioner for Transport said the other day, or the Ministry said the other day, that preliminary investigation showed that no last mile official was pursuing the driver. That's the first thing that they've said.
So the driver was running by himself.
That was what that's the story that they're putting on.
That's
But
the state defense.
yes, but
the reporters who were on the field.
of course, but that they were investigating to ascertain more. But I mean, if they were
It's
already
been
said
how
that
many days?
preliminary, again, that's the question.
It's Monday.
This is the same state where somebody told me that one time he was traveling and he was driving, downtown, and they stopped him and used a gadget also to comb the car, and they told him the model, the last time he did renewal and all of that. Why have we deliberately taken technology out of law enforcement?
I agree.
Because it makes life entire,
Easy.
and this is the reason why government must be the one to bear the brunt on this particular matter. The Constitution makes it clear that the responsibility of government shall be the welfare of the people. But it appears that the first thing they fail to do is that very welfare thing. You know, there is even a moral side question about having your elderly people sweeping the roads.
Yes.
People you don't pay.
For the younger people.
People you either don't pay or you underpay.
Yes.
How do you have such a so hold on an express road that leads to the ports? And people are sweeping it manually. When the world comes, how do they even view us?
True.
Half of the buildings on that stretch are warehouses. Tankers and trailers are always passing. That man didn't have to be the one to kill them. Those people
There
are already
are no worthy caution signs. And the worst part of it is that they are not even employed directly by the state.
They are not.
They are employed by a third party that will pay them
Peanuts.
Okay, if you want to have old people to work on, if you must do that, why can't you employ them directly and pay them what is due to them? And why don't you have insurance for them? These are elderly people that have children and all that.
And grandchildren in some cases.
And grandchildren. So sometimes when I go to court, I pass through that. Some of them used to, when they see you in traffic, they start begging.
Yeah,
Wow.
they do.
And they tell you, there was a day I wanted to give them money. One of them said, okay, just drop them. Just drop them on the floor. Do you understand? They don't want to be caught. But
Yeah.
So, these things are very,
And to think that a major brand in this country, uses that as part of their own branding and use their own advertising and whatever, is a crying shame that a Nigerian bank will put its logo and its name
on
to this crime against humanity.
Yes.
It's unthinkable. It's like what happened at that building that collapsed in Ikoyi. And I said that building those people didn't that when that building collapsed, they were potentially dead. You're building a high rise and using direct labor. No controls, nothing. And the building collapsed from the top floor, from the topmost floor to the ground.
Last.
Now, the same thing. Those women, it's a pity. Sometimes we say God understands. Otherwise, were they not already dead doing that work alone?
True.
Because this could happen again.
Yes.
It's too much.
It's too much risk. Such open risk. Sometimes, you see them that they wear neon signs on their clothes because sometimes, they begin sweeping even before daybreak. So government must awaken to its duty. There is a lot that technology and other things can help us achieve. You don't have to make us go back to the primitive age as if we've not civilized. It's a joke.
Really sad. Okay, I will be examining hunger in Abuja when we come back. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
You're welcome back to the Middlemen of Jurors. Today I'm going to examine hunger in Abuja. You must have seen several videos of Yoruba women, Yoruba Ronu, complaining about poverty in Nigeria, particularly in 2023. A lot of them said they voted for the current president and they're saddened that their own person, has not responded the way they expected him to. I'm wondering if they were expecting that because they voted because of ethnicity or religion, that they will start to pick money on the streets in their respective states. Within the week, I was in a conference in Abuja and realized that the Abuja citizens are even worse off than the Yoruba Ronus who are complaining down south. Here, we're able to hustle for our daily 2K and make by. Unfortunately, in Abuja, there's no hustling. In fact, there's no petrol at all. When they do find it, it's way more expensive than you would buy it in the south. So, Yoruba Ronus, I think you people should calm down for your president. He's just 6 months into his government. Don't worry. The corn will start to roll. The cassava will eventually come. My verdict: there are consequences to elections. Elections all have consequences. So if we vote because of ethnic or religious sentiments, at the end of the day, rather than merit, who can lead, who has the temerity, the international wherewithal, the capacity, even the good health to lead, then whatever is the consequence of your decision, you should also be willing to accept it. hopefully, before Hope 23 manifests, Nigerians will not see Shege Pro Max. I rest my case.
Yeah, Jumoke, your case is quite an interesting one.
Very interesting.
It appears it rubs off on everyone. I agree with you that elections have consequences, because some of these persons complain, and we told them at the time that if you go to the polls to sell your votes, because as far as I'm concerned, the 2023 election and even the off-cycle election that just concluded off-cycle elections was a huge market. A lot of people came to buy and so many persons came to sell. And that exchange we had was a transaction. Now, one of the terms or component of a transaction is that you are bringing value in exchange for value. So everybody is settled on that pitch, on the ground there. You go home settled. You understand? So if after some days...
You now come back to complain.
Yes. Take, for example, I came to sell this wristwatch to you. You came out, you paid me, you collected it. Then maybe 4 or 5 days later, I came to you and said, please, can you have not fed me. Why are you not feeding me? Why are you not helping me to feed? You are not treating me well. You are treating me right.
Do I owe you?
Yeah, my question. Yeah, that's it. The question you ask is, what for?
Do I owe you?
I bought watch from you. That is the last transaction I can remember, and I paid. So
and I paid in full.
Yeah. So these people that are saying they are complaining about hunger, their government not performing.
You remember Senator Olujimi? She mentioned it on the floor of the Senate that she paid the young people in her constituency in Ekiti State to become elected a senator. Yes. So she no longer owes them.
Yes, she said it. Those who sold their votes, those who helped politicians to snatch ballot boxes, those who fought others,
based on ethnicity.
Yeah, those who came out on the street and were asking people where they
what's your tribe?
Tribe, and then chasing people away, disenfranchising people, using force and all that. They cannot complain right now.
Yes.
Because it was not up to 1 month they did that there was a policy that subsidy is gone.
In fact, true.
And the country was, in fact,
on the day of inauguration,
already bad,
subsidy is gone.
Yes, an already bad economy, was shrunk further to the point where it affected even those who voted, those who did not vote, those who are not even qualified to vote. Everybody.
Yeah, everyone is bearing the brunt.
A palliative was promised that never got anywhere.
Well, subsidy, what they call
and there's a case at hand, I just remembered.
The budget.
The case of a man who was terribly angry after the election, and he was interviewed by some journalists. How do you see the outcome of the election? Why are you this angry? He said he's very angry because he was promised 10,000 naira. And after voting, they gave him 5,000 naira. That he's angry.
So he wasn't paid in full for his wristwatch.
He does not even know that he committed an offense. So when you have a huge percentage of your students living at the verge of survival,
true,
they will be committing offense
without
not knowing so.
One cannot wait for the day we will have good men in government. Sincerely speaking.
It will not happen by magic.
No.
Juro serial.
You see, because the fact is that this is how far the law can take us, and it can't take us any further. But we need the day when good men find their way into power, because the reality of the matter is that people don't know their rights and don't know that they don't know.
Yes.
And nobody who wants to enslave you will help you to know what you ought to know.
I agree.
Yeah. So now people are not even being educated. They're not being enlightened. They're not being exposed to anything that will bring them out of.
Who will educate them? Like you mentioned, the politicians who benefit from their ignorance are not going to teach them their civic rights, right? When you have half of your population in extreme poverty, and then I, the opposition candidate, right, I come to the populace and say, you should not sell your vote. But this woman, that 5,000 naira that you give to her, will probably cook her soup for 2 weeks, depending on where she lives in the country, where maybe she's already farming the yam, the potato, she only just needs to buy the meat or whatever, and she would eat for 2 weeks. Such a person, remember that survival is the basic instinct of any human being. Right after every election cycle, they do not see governance at all. So you, the opposition member, now come and tell them they should not collect that 5,000 or 10,000. Who's going to tell them that it is wrong?
Yes, but even the fact is that the vote is not even purchased on the day of election.
Sometimes it's purchased.
The vote is bought far before election. When they visit the valley, when they visit the king of the community, they drop
the thing, yes.
When they visit the youth arm, they drop a lot of money. When they visit women leaders. The youth, they settle.
You see, sometimes, yes.
Then on the election day, before the citizens come out to exercise their civic responsibilities, the vote have been bought already. What they do on that day is to just give transport.
Sometimes they even buy one vote with one keke, with one tricycle, one vote sewing machine, one vote. I know what I'm talking. One vote. Sometimes what
brings me back to my question from the last Middlemen: is democracy working for Nigeria?
Well, we would say it again. Democracy has not been fortified with all the condiments that it requires. So, for example, when we came into democracy in 1999, what we should have done is to reconscientize the mind to the place where it understands its civic duties. They didn't do it.
The military
was supposed to do it, came out from prison.
Of course. So, which even made it more necessary for him to have invested in the NOA, for example, to undertake a campaign to demilitarize the Nigerian mind.
Yes.
True. I agree.
To exfoliate the minds of the
So, for example, once you see a soldier on the road, what normally comes to your mind?
It's fear.
Avoiding fear.
Look, even policemen, once I see a policeman, instead of thinking protection, I'm thinking,
you rather just avoid him.
God, let him not see me. God, let him not see me.
Because police is on another level entirely, in this country.
Another level of
so we've weaponized poverty, like she said.
Yes.
And rather we've institutionalized corruption.
Yes.
Okay. And we have
the most flourishing industry in Nigeria.
Of course.
Corruption
of course.
industry.
Of
yes,
course.
we're all corrupt.
A corruption industry is a huge
You
industry.
see, even this poverty you're talking about now, if the money that had been earmarked for palliative, that 5 billion naira, had been judiciously dispensed, believe me, it could have gone a long way. You cannot be telling me that you have excess with which to buy
to
I know, but I know, of course, because they didn't consult.
Why you give it to
Now the question. Can I just land?
You give one community one derica of rice to do what with?
Now I'm coming. Then you have as priority $5 billion to buy a yacht.
See.
That just tells me that
the same 5 billion for student loans.
So what you're doing actually,
the office of the
wife.
So what and then repairing Aso Rock. So what you really are doing is that you are only adding to the problem.
Yes.
You're not taking away from the problem. Not that you're solving it.
Then you now took 35,000 for NLC.
Yes.
And put it in the same budget.
Yes.
Okay. For the one that went to in my village.
No, but they should have even rejected it actually.
In my village, 8 bags of rice came. And each bag have 240 cups.
How many cups did you receive?
Now, each family got 3 cups. And you still have families that didn't receive anything. Okay? And if that is the definition of palliative in the context of this government.
Poverty alleviation.
Yes, in the context of what this government has.
Poverty aggravation.
In the context of what this government have as its policy on poverty alleviation or palliative, then it means that the government failed on arrival.
They've also promised 25,000 naira per family for 3 months. Again, I ask, is that alleviating poverty or aggravating poverty? Because after what happens after 3 months? Because I will still buy my fuel. Well, they're extremely poor. Maybe they do not buy petrol. They ride bicycles. They do not have electricity, so they're not buying diesel.
Even bicycles are very expensive. They walk it. They walk.
Yeah, so
they trek long distances now.
I'm just saying that. So after 3 months, the tomatoes that you will buy or the meat you will buy in the market has been transported with this expensive fuel. Yes. The inflation rate is at 30%.
Very well.
So after 3 months,
by official figures,
at all-time high.
After 3 months, what happens?
It's funny.
So this is a lesson for Nigerians to realize that elections have consequences, and hunger is not going to disappear by selling your vote. It's by voting right.
I think one of the consequences is hunger.
Yes.
Your case today.
If you see the hunger in Abuja, we're still enjoying in Lagos. Because the business in Abuja is either you're a civil servant or you are employed by a contractor. There's no hustling there. There's no I'm selling gala on the streets, you know. So I saw angry, hungry faces in Abuja.
Everywhere.
People who are disappointed in what's happening.
Terribly disillusioned.
You know,
The consequence of
making wrong choices
making wrong
during elections.
and they will have to live with it.
Yes.
All right.
That has been our case. Well, our cases today. Did you agree with our verdicts? If you did, you can send us messages on all our social media platforms. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to also discuss the cases top of your mind. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Middlemen of Jurors. We'll be back very soon. Do not go anywhere. Stay with us.
Enterprise TV, your one-stop shop for news, programs, human angle stories, the economy, sports, and much more. We go the extra mile to bring incredible details to you. So hop on the train now. Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.